Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new Just No HOA content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Toa Resident? Make the drop of shame and lose your contract. This is a short story about being a good neighbor, an HOA that actually isn't evil, and a towing company that is. This literally just concluded moments ago. I live in like a little gated community thing with townhomes and stuff in a HOA. Nothing super fancy by any means, just a quiet little neighborhood. The way it works with parking and the crux of this story, is that every resident has 2 spots assigned to their unit, and they're yours to do with as you see fit. Use them, leave them empty, let your neighbor use it, let guests use it, park straddling both spots, who cares? They're yours. It's been this way for many years with nary an issue. We have a towing company contracted to the HOA. Now, our tow company is only here to be called at a residence or HOA direct request to remove an unauthorized vehicle from their spot. The parking is numbered, but just to identify the spots saved for residents, everyone gets 2. As we don't have any numbered, assigned window stickers or anything that serious. The towing contract is rarely used, and really even then just as a last resort. We usually just talk to each other like good neighbors do if we have a parking or other issue. So I get home this evening and right behind me comes a tow truck. The kind they use for stealth pulls where they lift up one axle and roll you on down the road about 20 seconds after arrival. As I get out of my car I see them pulling a neighbor's car who always parks diagonally in their 2 spots, due to a tight configuration and a corner spot, making it difficult to navigate even small cars in and out while parking within the lines. Now again, it's their spots, so who cares? Literally nobody, that's who. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. You see, the couple that owns the car is a sweet little couple in their 60s, semi-retired and generally just nice, quiet people. It didn't seem likely to me that their car was being repossessed, and something about the tow truck driver and his either spotter or manager, some random dude in a F-150 following him around on a radio, just made me feel odd. Usually I'm a pretty non-confrontational person, but something about the whole situation made me act in an uncharacteristically assertive manner, and so I flagged down the driver as he was beginning to leave with the resident's car. I'll be G, he'll be TT for tow truck. G. Hey, are you pulling a repo, or a resident out of their own spot? TT. I'm pulling a resident for parking in 2 spots. G. That's BS, I've lived here a decade and that's never been a thing. TT. Yeah well it's in the contract, you should try reading it. G. No, I've literally talked to the HOA about exactly this and they have confirmed what you're towing them for is explicitly not a towable thing unless the resident themselves called it in and I doubt they asked you to tow their own car. TT. Well you should talk to them then, because I'm leaving with it. G. Cool, see you in an hour. So in comes the malicious compliance. In a stroke of righteous karma, the HOA representative who is responsible for the tow company contract of our complex got home less than 5 minutes after the tow truck left, and I was out walking my dogs. I walked up to him, exchanged the usual pleasantries, and relayed the situation as well as the fact that they had tagged at least 3 other vehicles in the immediate vicinity for future tows. He simply let out an exasperated, crap, and said he would get on it. I then knocked on the neighbor's door whose car got towed and informed them of the situation as it stood, suggesting they also contact the HOA representative up the hill. They did so accordingly, and he confirmed that he was already in the process of handling it. We stood out front and chatted for a bit, and he went inside. I retreated to my front porch and waited for what I knew was coming. 20 minutes later as I leaned against the wall out front, I hear the jingle-jangle of victory coming back into the complex. The tow truck drops the car diagonally in both spots, just as he found it, with a scowl on his face. As he leaves, we make eye contact. I grin. He gives me the finger as he leaves. I smile because he knows I won. The neighbor whose car was again parked came outside shortly thereafter, and we chatted again briefly. The HOA representative, whose swift action ensured their car was back in the spot exactly 1 hour from the time it was towed, came down to where we were chatting and apologized for the issue, saying that the towing company has given them other problems recently and that with this he would be moving at next month's board meeting to contract with a new company as of January 1st. One that actually abides by what we pay them to do, which definitely isn't towing ourselves. In closing, be the good neighbor Mr. Rogers taught you to be. The next one is titled, Call the HOA because my yard is devaluing your house? Alright, I'll have it cleaned by the inspection date. This is a story of my mother's. She has always been incredibly hard-headed, but this sticks out a lot from my teenage years. Once a year she always had us pull everything out of the garage. Lots of boxes. My mom has a concerning amount of possessions, so we could go through it and clean, reorganize. This particular year the couple who owned the house across from us, flippers, were in the process of selling their house. Unhappy with my mother's unsightly driveway covered in boxes soiling their good image, they made a call to the HOA. By the time my mother received the letter, the mess had been put away, but they decided to get her on a few other complaints such as the bikes against the side of the house and the patchy gravel. She had 2 weeks to have everything up to standards. Petty and easily frustrated, my mother knew immediately who called since the couple had come over and told her flat out with their renovations they were selling that house for way more any other house in this neighborhood, and would appreciate if she respected that by keeping her property on par. For the next 2 weeks every box from that garage was in our driveway. The couch and the living room TV came next. This was early summer, so it was perfect weather to sit in your yard in your short shorts and sports bra. My mom made sure to wave and smile every time they brought someone over for a showing. The final step came at the end of that 2 weeks though. After the yard had been cleaned up and cleared by the HOA, my mom went to the local Walmart and bought a for sale sign. She wrote about 1/4 of their ridiculous asking price on it and finished off with a big sold written across the front and stuck it out in our yard. No clue what they ended up selling their house for, but it sat empty for a while so I'd assume it was below offer. Next one is titled, Taking the Job to a Whole New Level. I worked from home full-time when I lived in a condo with a pain-in-the-butt HOA. I caught an HOA member opening our patio door and looking inside our condo. I then later caught him on our patio, inspecting 3 small plants we kept outside during the day and brought in at night. Our patio had a 4 ft high brick wall all the way around it. There was no entrance/exit. That guy climbed over the fence, then opened the screen door when I caught him. His ridiculous excuse was he wanted to make sure we didn't leave the sliding door open with nobody home and that it was security risk. I told him that their jurisdiction ended at the wall and if we wanted to leave for a week with all our windows and doors open it was our freaking business. The second time I caught him I told him I was calling the cops and having him arrested for trespassing if I ever saw him on my property again. Of course, 2 weeks later we got fined for the plants and later got fined for some other petty things. Next one is titled, Beyond Messed Up. The city I grew up in was briefly in national news because a HOA was trying to force an elderly couple to give their only grandchild up for adoption after her parents were killed in a traffic accident. The little girl had no other living family and had watched her parents die, but the HOA wanted her gone because it was a retirement community, and told them to give her up or be homeless. The grandparents finally just sold their house and moved. A whole block of other people bullying grieving parents and their 5-year-old grandkid probably got to them. Next one is titled, So You Don't Want It in the Driveway? I live in a neighborhood with an HOA, and they have a rule against having large vehicles in the driveway for more than 24 hours. My parents used to have an RV and we would go on long trips several times a year. Before each we would park it in the driveway for a few days to pack at a leisurely pace. The HOA hates this, and eventually fines us and tells us not to do it again. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. In our neighborhood, the roads are public, not private. We did a bit of research and found out that in our area, on public roads, a vehicle can be parked for 1 week before it needs to move. So, we do the reasonable thing and park our huge RV in front of the house of the head of our HOA, for a week. And then we move it a few dozen feet, and leave it another week. And then go on our trip. We never heard about it from the HOA, presumably because they realized they have no control on public streets. After that they stopped complaining when our RV was in the driveway for a few days every couple months. Next one is titled, "His Neighbor Saved Him from the HOA's Callous Indifference." One time I went away for a long weekend and left after work on Thursday. Late Friday afternoon, my water heater burst, in the attic of a 3-story home, and flooded my entire townhouse. When my neighbor got home from work he saw gallons of water running from underneath my garage door. When he realized I wasn't home, he tried to find my phone number to no avail, so he called the homeowners association to notify me. The lady that answered said that since it was after business hours, it was 5:01 at this point, the matter would have to wait until Monday. My wonderful neighbor ended up calling the non-emergency police line and they came and shut my water off from the street. When I got home Sunday morning, my entire house was damaged and I could see my attic from my basement. After a massive panic attack and a frantic call to my insurance company, we started the process of repairs. The cherry on top was that I needed to have a dumpster placed in my driveway along with a moving pod as I removed what was left of my furniture and began drying out the house. Then I got a visit from the HOA. They didn't like how unsightly my home had become and wanted the items removed from my driveway, so I essentially told them that they could take their complaints and go shove them up their butts. I got a little revenge too because I stopped paying their stupid fees since they couldn't find me before 6 months of residency and I was moving in less than 5 months. I will never again own a property involved with a homeowners association, they're the worst. Next one is titled, HOA or Total Scam. 2 days before I bought a condo, I was told that I would be blocked from moving in unless I paid the first month's HOA dues. So the morning of the closing, I went to the management company's office and dropped off a check. I moved in without issue and then continued to pay my dues on time each month. 4 years later, I got an invoice for $800 plus. Apparently, they never cashed that first check. So when I paid the next month, they credited it toward my first month and assessed a late fee. This continued for 4 years where every month's check was credited to the previous month. I got in a huge argument with the accounting office and they wouldn't budge on the $800 plus in late fees. I was irate. Next one is titled, It Lives Up to Stereotype. We've only been part of an HOA for the last few months, and it's already living up to every stereotype I ever had in my head. They held our once annual meeting with very little notice, and like 6 people showed up. They elected a new association, and immediately decided to spend $700 on dog poop receptacles, even though like 4 people have dogs and the whole neighborhood is one street. This sparked an incredible amount of drama. One guy on the HOA decided he was going to get super defensive when people started questioning this decision, and it quickly devolved into him just taunting people on Facebook because he was on the board and they weren't, and if they didn't like his authority, they should change the bylaws. Then someone left a bunch of dog poop on his driveway. Then he resigned from the HOA. No word on the dog poop receptacles. This has all happened in the past 3 days. Last one is titled, An Eye for an Eye. There was a war between 2 of my neighbors. You see, we had regulations as to what kind of trees you could have. Someone had planted these beautiful cherry blossom trees and lovingly cultivated them from saplings, but got told repeatedly that they were against HOA policy. The homeowner told the president to go F himself. This is not an exaggeration. According to what I heard, the guy literally said, "Go F yourself," and left. The HOA president snuck over to the guy's house and cut down the trees at night. So the homeowner, rather than filing a suit, decided to do the same thing. He went to the HOA president's house and cut down his trees. Again, rather than calling the cops, the HOA president decided to start hacking up his bushes in the middle of the day. We moved before this somehow concluded itself, but man, upper middle class, middle-aged white people are weird. Thanks for listening.